Ubisoft is implementing some fantastic quality of life changes with the next Grim Sky update. Hey, what's up guys, Irishtail here, and in today's video, as I just said, we'll be talking about some of the great quality of life changes coming with the Grim Sky update very soon. So of course, without further ado, let's get into these, and of course I do want to point out, I'm not going to be talking about the new operators, because of course they are in themselves quite obvious, but what we're actually going to be talking about is some of the great little changes that are coming to the game, just to generally improve lots of different aspects of player life when it comes to playing Siege. So of course, one of the first things I want to talk about is the new two-factor authentication. Now this, for those of you guys that aren't aware, is basically just a system that requires you to have two different separate points to access the game. So of course you have your normal password, and then you have this second authentication system. And on the moment they're using a mobile phone application that comes from Google, and basically you have to link those two up to be able to play ranked in Siege. So obviously if you haven't done that and you are a big ranked fan, maybe something worth looking into doing, because of course it is very important to get that done to continue playing ranked when Grim Sky launches. Of course this is a great new system because basically the intention here is to try and stop people stealing accounts and selling them online, and also to try and prevent players from, just generally fishing for accounts as much, because it means it's a little bit harder to get into them. And obviously it goes without saying, don't ever give your password details out anyway, but of course this second level of security is just that extra little bit helpful, just to keep your accounts safe. Now the next system that they've added in for quality of life improvements is the auto-picking operator system. Now of course this is something that we've been asking for quite a while, and the scenario is, we've all done this, you start up into a game, you launch to search to find one, and then you go to the toilet, you come back, and oh no, you've got recruit, and you're stuck on recruit for that round, and you kind of feel like you've not got as much utility as you need, you can't really help your team as much. Well, Ubisoft have heard the community's cries, and they have gone, right, well, we're going to fix this for you guys, we're going to give you a solution, and we're going to try and help you out a little bit. So the solution they've implemented is the auto-pick operator system. Basically what that means is, once the picking phase has ended, if you haven't picked an operator, that is, you haven't clicked on any of them to select them, the game will throw you into a random operator for your team. Now, of course, as I said, this does mean that you don't select. So if you have an option where you go and say, hey, I'm going to load in, and you click recruit, it means that you are then on recruit because you have selected him. But if you don't pick, the game will, as I said, throw you onto a random operator. There is no selection system at the minute to like pick your top 5 picks, or maybe choose your top 5 most played. But it's a good step in the right direction. It means that we can actually sort of go AFK a little bit and actually know, hey, I'm not going to have one less reinforced wall on defense, or hey, I'm still going to have some sort of utility to help my team. It's a great little system. It's one of those problems. It's happened to everyone. We've all done it. And again, it's just one of those things that the Ubisoft have said, hey, we can hear your complaints here, and we're going to fix this for you. Obviously, it's a little bit random at the minute, so maybe if you don't like playing Tachanka, or you've got operators without attachments, you may get put onto those operators, which I think is a little bit awkward sometimes. But generally speaking, I think it's a good system. It's something we've needed. And again, it's just one of those quality of life improvements that'll just make the game a little bit smoother. They could obviously improve it, like I said, by maybe having us pick the top 5 operators in attack and defense that we like to use, and then just running down that list, and if all the operators are picked, you take your least played operator on the 5. Or maybe they just go, hey, these are this person's top 5 operators, and we'll just run through this list until we can get one of those 5, and then we'll give them that operator. But, at least we have a system in place now, it's something, and obviously they can only improve on it from here, and, it's just useful to have. The next thing I want to talk about is the map changes to Consulate. Now this is just a small quality of life change. It just basically means that at the front end of Consulate, the map has changed slightly, so that players are a little bit more difficult to spawn peek. And it basically means that when you're crossing over across the map, you can actually choose a route now that doesn't put you in front of all those front windows, that double door, and you have a little bit more cover. Obviously, it's just a nice little quality of life change. Again, the map itself has also had a bit of a rework on the way it looks. Different areas have had little improvements. And again, it's just nice to see that Ubisoft are still looking at old maps and saying, hey, we realise there are issues here, we realise things don't look quite good, and we have improvements for them coming. And of course, they have also added the new bomb site between the Visa office and the archives. Personally, I don't know how that site's going to work yet, but at least it means they're taking a look at how they can change things on the maps and just generally make improvements. The next system I want to talk about is also the better UI information on the drones. Now, when it used to come to drones, you'd have a very small compass at the bottom, you'd get very sort of small levels of information that were a little bit difficult to see, And Ubisoft have just kind of made a little bit of a change here. They've increased the size of the compass, so when you're making calls to your friends and your teammates, you've got an idea a bit more of what direction you're looking, where you are. It's just, again, it's a small little change they've made, but it just improves call-outs just a hell of a lot more. It's nice to get a bit more of that information a bit more clearly. It's better to give calls out, and again, it's just a nice little change. It's not huge, it's not like game-breaking, but it will just improve the quality of life of the game, just generally speaking. The next thing to talk about is also the changes to the way that trapdoors work. Again, this was something where we had a lot of players doing things like with Hibana, where they do hot drops, where they basically put all 6 pellets onto a trapdoor, they'd knock all of them off except one, stand on the trapdoor, detonate it, and fall straight through. This is no longer an option. They have now changed it so that trapdoors now take 4 Hibana pellets to blow open, and it basically means that we can get partial destruction now on trapdoors to keep them reinforced, keep them in place, and shoot through them, but not have them opened. It also means that defenders, if they see Hibana shooting her pellets, they can actually clear a few of them off and actually maintain that trapdoor in place, so that actually still prevents the attackers from jumping in. So again, it's a nice little change. It also means that the new Operator Maverick, he has a bit more use there because he can start to cut through a trapdoor and then get some kill holes through the roof. So again, it's just a nice little quality of life change there to how trapdoors work. It also does mean that if a trapdoor is reinforced above your head, the wood underneath it will collapse and fall in on you. I'll be honest, when that first happened, it did make me jump because I didn't know that was going to happen. And I just heard this wood cracking above me and I was like, crap, what was that? And I realised it was a teammate reinforcing above my head. But yeah, it's a nice little change. Again, it will add a little bit more dynamic to those trapdoors, makes them a little bit more interesting in how they can be used and how sightlines can be created without having to make direct holes into a sight. And the final major change that I want to talk about is, of course, the new muting option for chat in the game. So basically, if you've not seen this, Ubisoft have now implemented a new scoreboard system, which is also quite a nice little change as well. It does look quite nice. It's a bit more clear, and I think it's a bit more clean. But on that scoreboard, you can also see that against every single player, there is a little chat box notification that you can click to mute that player individually. Basically, this is something the community has talked about for a long time. It's something we've wanted for ages, which is the ability to mute individual players in the chat so you don't have to see what they're typing. Now, of course, Ubisoft did recently introduce their system where you could just basically mute everybody in the chat, so just remove the chat entirely. Or you could alternatively, get banned if you were using racist, homophobic, offensive terms. You would get automatically banned. But Ubisoft in Grim Sky have taken that a little bit of a step further and said, hey, well look, if you don't want to listen to one player who's maybe putting out abuse that's not going to get them kicked, you can actually just mute that individual player without having to remove all the communication that the chat feature offers. Obviously, this is just a PC update, it's just for PC players, it doesn't really affect console, but I think it's a great step in a direction to actually meaning that we don't have to block off every single player if one person is ruining it. So of course, on the attacking team, you can basically choose who you want to mute in the chat. Obviously, you can't hear their voices, so that's not an option there. But if someone in the enemy team is being abusive, hurling offensive comments, you can just click that little chat button, that person is muted, you don't have to see what he's saying, but you can see the rest of his team talking. So obviously, if you want to say good game at the end, you can still put that out there to them all, and you can see them typing it back, except for this one offensive player. Similarly, on the on your team, again, the same option is there. You can mute players individually by microphone and also now by chat. So if one of your teammates is being abusive through the microphone and through the chat, you can basically mute that person in both those areas, but still retain the chat for the rest of your team. Basically what that means is if there is one toxic player, you don't have to mute your entire team to avoid that one player. You can just get rid of him, which I think is a fantastic change. It's something the community has talked about for a long time. It's something we've wanted for ages, and it's nice to see that Ubisoft have implemented it as a change. Obviously, it's not one of the big things they've talked about, but I think it is a great step in the right direction because it no longer means that I have to mute everybody just to ignore one person. So it's nice to see they have listened to us and they are considering certain changes, because I'll be honest, the current just hiding the entire chat system, in my opinion, just isn't very good. And I don't like it, and I think this is a nice step in the right direction. They have also briefly talked in interviews, I think it was Epi was talking about the fact they may actually be removing the auto-ban system for certain chat words, and they may also be looking at adding in a blur system so that if someone puts an offensive word, it's blurred out. These are obviously things in the pipeline, they've not been added yet, but it is considered by Ubisoft as a potential option, and it's something they might do. And obviously with this ability to individually mute players, it means that I can sense the sort of things that I want to see. So if somebody's being racist, homophobic, using abusive words, I can say, hey, I don't want to listen to this, and chat mute them. Or I can leave it open if it doesn't bother me, and I can just ignore them or obviously respond if I'd wanted to. And you can deal with it in the way that you choose, which again I think is nice, as it kind of feels less heavy-handed than this auto-ban system they have. And it just means that I can sort of selectively choose what I have to listen to and what I don't. Obviously, they may not remove the ban system on certain words. That is up to their discretion. But it's nice to see that we have that option now to individually mute. And those are just some of the quality of life changes that I wanted to talk about today in today's video. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this little update. If you did, a like would be greatly appreciated. If you didn't, the dislike button is just there. Subscribe for more Rainbow Six Siege content coming soon. I also want to point out, guys, I do have a Twitch channel that I am now streaming on a regular basis. You can head over to there in the link in the description below. My stream schedule is terrible, but on there you'll see me playing with other YouTubers like Grief Drums, Ross, Rogue9 when he's about, some other YouTubers as well. So we're just, I'm sort of getting into the Siege scene again. I'm starting to play with other people. And of course, if you do want to see any of my gameplay live, Twitch is the place to go. Just follow me on there. I am getting regular on that, getting a lot better at streaming. And so hopefully you guys will enjoy that if you're interested. I also do have a merch store open on Redbubble. Again, if you're interested in buying any kind of merch, the link is in the description below. Not that you would be. But other than that, guys, thanks for watching. And I'll see you in the next one.